Imagine you finally made it to the big time of wrestling, got on television, made somewhat of a splash, and then a few months later saw that somebody else was using your gimmick. You'd be confused, right? Not much you can do at this stage because it's too late, but still, this has happened a lot. We're not talking about those one-offs either. So sure, in 1994 we had two Undertakers, and during the Attitude Era, Midian would dress up as Mankind, but they were done for angles. I mean those occasions where for a good few months we can see visual plagiarism running wild. I guess the original creation just couldn't cut it. I'm Simon from What Culture. Please do hit that subscribe button. This is 10 wrestling gimmicks handed down to other wrestlers. Number 10, Max Moon. Vince McMahon really loved the concept of Max Moon. Despite sounding like a scrapped idea on Stan Lee's floor, Vince thought this was the future, so did everything he could to make it work. The first attempt was with Conan, and here's where the story has an unexpected twist. Rumor has it actually came from his brain, which begs the question why he thought strapping rocket boosters to his gear was going to help. When he left to return to Mexico though, McMahon didn't think it was the time to kill it off, so he just tried again. He didn't think very hard about this because the gig went to Paul Diamond simply because he fit the costume. Shockingly, that didn't go to plan, and when Diamond left the company in 1993, we finally saw sense and retired Max Moon. Either that or we can pretend that Max finally made it to space, and that's where he decided to live out the rest of his days. Number 9, Black Tiger. This one is nuts. Black Tiger was originally created to be a rival to Tiger Mask in Japan. British star Mark Rollerball Rocco was first under the hood in 1982, but my word, it doesn't stop there. As soon as that relationship came to an end, none other than Eddie Guerrero was next, and that was in 1993. Jump forward a decade and we still weren't done because former WCW Cruiserweight Silver King jumped in, and he was followed by Rocky Romero, Ishii, and Takaiwa. Nosawa Rongai also got involved, and if you've lost track, that is 7 generations of the same character since the 80s. His rival also went through multiple changes. Tiger Mask predominantly was played by Satori Sayama, Mitsuhiro Misawa, Koji Kanemoto, and Yamasaki Yoshihiro, but Ikarushi Minowa also had a brief role with this in 2010. Even Kota Ibushi has been Tiger Mask W, and this could be why sometimes non-wrestling fans get really confused. 72,801 individuals playing one character. What do you think that does to somebody's brain? Number 8, the Legion of Doom. In the late 80s and 90s, no one was more badass than the Road Warriors. That continued when they shifted to the WWF and became the Legion of Doom, as they painted their faces and massive shoulder pads became perfect Halloween fodder. They looked cool and they destroyed people in the ring. Face it, it rocked. When Hawk's very real personal issues started to increase, WWE made the decision to switch in Darren Drozdov to fill the role and team with Animal, and well, it wasn't great. Thankfully, it didn't last that long because fans just weren't buying it. The fact they were called LOD 2000 was even worse, but nothing could prepare us for what was next. As late as 2005, we were still trying to recapture the past when, of all people, John Heidenreich was put into this position. To try and make it relevant, they switched their red gear to white gear, and while they did win the tag team titles, it was just met with confusion because nobody wanted to see it, and yet here it was wanting to be seen. Thankfully today, because we do have selective memories, we can just pretend none of that happened, although I do want to know what happened to John Heidenreich. He seemed to vanish off of planet Earth. Number 7, Roddy Piper. In one of those only in wrestling stories, before his tragic death, Roddy Piper became such good friends with Ronda Rousey, he said she could use his rowdy gimmick if she so wished. She did wish to this, and when Ronda arrived in WWE, it was that nickname she attached to herself. Amazingly, at first, Rousey didn't want this as she thought it was disrespectful. Piper saw things otherwise, and given the fact they had both been trained by Gene LaBelle and the fact he liked her attitude, he was more than keen for this to happen. It was still somewhat disjarring when she first walked out with that Rowdy logo on her t-shirt, but still, it's nice to see the old and the new coming together. Rousey even got to wear one of Piper's leather jackets, which goes to show that true legends never die, their memory simply goes on forever. It's not like Rousey didn't live up to this either. Her first year in WWE is pretty darn good. Number 6, the Nature Boy. It's crazy in 2019 to think that Ric Flair lifted his now iconic gimmick and name from somebody else. Doesn't make sense because Flair was so good at it. However, it was the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers who got there first, and he had been doing this since the 50s. So when Rick came along in the 70s and not only used the name but also modeled his character on what Rogers was doing, well, it worked very well. Clearly, even the figure 4 belonged to Buddy originally, but hey, if you're gonna do something, you may as well do it right. This domino effect continued in the 80s as well when Buddy Landel also started to call himself the Nature Boy. He even and dyed his hair blonde. Not many people were as forgiving this time around, given that when Flair started doing it, Rogers was on a downward turn, whereas here, Landale was literally trying to copy someone who was one of the biggest names in pro wrestling. It was too much of the same, it's why nobody accepted it, it's why it didn't work, and in hindsight, this was a really, really bad idea. Number 5, Rey Mysterio. Before he signed for WWE, most people knew Rey Mysterio as Rey Mysterio Jr. The Jr. was dropped when he signed for WWE in 2002 because Vince McMahon isn't a fan of that, but a fact is a fact. The reason it was added originally was because of his heritage or the fact that his uncle was called Rey Mysterio. So now there were 2. When you see pictures of them side by side, you can see the deliberate resemblance as well, from the mask to a tiny goatee. This is even true when we talk about the spelling of Mysterio. Whereas today we know it with a Y, the original version used an I, as did a young Rey before that got changed as well. So as you can see, this was entirely the point, and Mysterio was nodding his head to someone who had helped pave the way. It's been utterly watered down today, but I suppose that's wrestling. You're always under somebody else's thumb who may not get it. Even still, the Rey Mysterio we know has gone on to become a legend all of his own right, and that in itself is just very, very nice. Number 4, Razor Ramon. Even today, it is amazing this happened. After Razor Ramon had left for WCW in 1996 and arrived there as Scott Hall, WWE wasn't quite ready to give that character up. Far from it. So the decision was made to announce that the bad guy was heading back to Raw, which raised a lot of eyebrows among wrestling fans. How was this possible? Especially because we'd already seen him on Nitro. What was he going to do? Go back and forth? The key with this statement is that it was Razor returning to the company and not Scott Hall. After suggesting that Rick Bogner would fit into this role perfectly, he was indeed introduced as a new version of an old favorite, and it flopped almost instantly. The audience audibly groaned when they realized what was going on, and this felt like a bad Halloween angle than something a major promotion should be doing. It was worse as we had a Kevin Nash lookalike too, but we'll get there. It was so bad, Bogner was out the door entirely by mid-1997, even though number 3, Diesel. So yeah, as mentioned, we had 2 people involved in this scandal, because the other was a fake Diesel who was played by none other than Glenn Jacobs, who is also Kane. Yes, you heard me correctly. Brought in after being Isaac Yankem, that was equally as bad. Saying this got over better than his counterpart is the equivalent of arguing that a punch to the face is better than a kick to the balls. You don't really want either of them. It was always going to fail because, as we've touched upon, copycats just don't work. We've seen the originals who were also better, and no matter how much JR on commentary tried to defend their in-ring skills, no one cared about that. They just wanted to know why this would even happen. The last shock really was that while Bogner did get let go, Jacobs did not, and obviously went on to have an amazing career as The Undertaker's brother. In fact, he did so well it doesn't even matter that he was a mad dentist and a knockoff version of somebody else. That's quite the trap to come back from. But maybe that's why Kane was so damn good. Number 2, Doink the Clown. There have been so many Doinks, I think I portrayed him at one point. Not all have been equal, but still, it's like Mrs. Doink was giving birth to a new one every few weeks. Once again, the first was the best, as Matt Bourne played the character as some kind of demonic clown that was out to cause misery to children all over the world. If it wasn't for his personal demons, who knows where this could have got to, as Bruce Pritchard would allude to on his podcast. The ceiling was so high for him, at one point he was going to have a crazy, over-the-top circus-like entrance at WrestleMania 9. Due to these issues, however, Bourne was let go from the WWE, with Ray Apollo stepping into his big red shoes. From there, the gimmick was changed, and instead of this screwed up version, we just got a nice clown who would high-five children. It was fine, I guess, but didn't really feel like it could go anywhere. From here, we just kept throwing them out there, including Steve Kern, Steve Lombardo, and John Maloof. We even saw Chris Jericho dress up as Doink to sneak attack William Regal, and I bet we're not done with this either. Somehow, Doink will be around forever. Number 1, Sin Cara. Sin Cara was a big deal when he was signed in 2011. A standout in Mexico known as Mr. Cool, WWE even had a press conference for him and made it clear that from their point of view, this was the next Rey Mysterio. That does mean something. Fortunately, it didn't work. For whatever reason, nothing clicked when the Sin Cara character began with the company. And while he had a flashy entrance and a cool mask, he didn't click with the audience. There was a lot left to be desired. By the time 2013 rolled around, the guy under the hood had been replaced as well, as George Arias took over. WWE didn't want anyone to know this, so kept the character exactly the same, but it was still weird. It was like sneaking somebody else in while tiptoeing up to bed before your parents realize. Not like it helped either. In late 2019, this version also asked to be released because he didn't think he was being used correctly. As of saying these words, we don't know what his future is, but after almost 10 years in the WWE, it's fair to say that Sin Cara didn't really go to plan, especially when we start talking about Triple H, the man who signed him. That was his first big get too. Probably wants to forget about that now. Know of any other wrestling gimmicks that were handed down to other wrestlers? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then head on to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles, and follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. My name is Simon from What Culture, and I will talk to you again soon.
Hi guys, I'm Adam Wilborn from What Culture, and if you're a fan of what you've just seen, then make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling on either iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts for daily wrestling podcasts, where we not only review Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, we also discuss the events before and after of pay-per-views. We have roundtable discussions discussing burning wrestling issues, interviews, and a roundup of the week, complete with a bloody good quiz, of course, on wrestle culture. Thanks for watching. I've been Adam from What Culture, and I'll see you soon.